Imagine designing a multi-million-dollar race car. It runs flawlessly on a pristine test track. But the second you put it in rush hour traffic, the engine just unexpectedly stalls.
Right. It just completely dies.
Yeah, and that is exactly what's happening right now inside data centers with high-speed Ethernet. So, welcome to this deep dive into an engineering document detailing the validation cliff at 400G, 800G, and the cutting-edge 1.6 terabit speeds.
It's a massive leap in speed.
It really is. We're looking at why networking systems that seem perfect in the lab suddenly break down in real-world deployments. Okay, let's unpack this. If lab testing is that empty test track, well, production is chaotic gridlock.
Yeah, and that transition is brutal. I mean, by the time these designs reach pre-production, the fundamental architecture is almost always sound.
Right, the math actually works.
Exactly, the math works. They fail because the pristine lab environment strips away the messy, interacting variables of thousands of active networking ports operating simultaneously.
So, what exactly happens when that perfect design hits the rush hour of a data center rack?
Well, what's fascinating here is the physical reality of airflow. Like in a lab, a single 800G module pushing, say, 20 watts gets ideal. Steady air.
Sounds nice and cool.
Right. But put that into a dense production rack, and you get neighbor-induced airflow starvation.
Wow.
Yeah, the hot exhaust from surrounding ports causes internal junction temperatures to jump by like 8 to 12 degrees Celsius.
Which, I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot, but what does 12 degrees actually do to the hardware?
It causes the physical materials inside the module to expand infinitesimally.
Wait, just from 12 degrees?
Yeah, just a tiny bit.
Yeah.
In silicon photonics, even a fraction of a millimeter of thermal expansion actually misaligns the internal lasers.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So when that laser shifts off target, the connection momentarily drops with what we call a link flap.
So the heat physically warps the connection. And it's not just the thermals, right?
Yeah.
Because the electrical signals themselves face a similar crowding issue. I like to think of signal integrity at this speed like trying to have a whispered conversation in a crowded stadium.
That's a great way to put it, actually.
Like, one person whispering next to you, which is your minor electromagnetic crosstalk, is perfectly fine. But when thousands of cables are all whispering electromagnetic noise at once, your receiver literally can't distinguish the data from the background roar. It's like a massive game of Jenga.
Yeah, and that background roar gets even louder when unpredictable network traffic actually starts flowing.
Yeah.
Because, interoperability in real deployments involves hot swaps, firmware drift, and temporal power delivery noise.
Temporal power delivery noise. So basically microscopic ripples in the system's power supply.
Exactly.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. If we're talking about microscopic power ripples, how does that actually corrupt the data?
Well, it comes down to how we encode that data. At these speeds, we use PM4. That's a technology that squeezes 4 different data values into tiny voltage changes.
Instead of just the usual ones and zeros?
Right? Instead of a simple on or off signal. And because those voltage margins are so incredibly thin, even a tiny power ripple, like a PDN impedance peak, can cause the system to misread the data.
And that creates a PAM4 symbol error.
You got it.
Wait, but a network monitoring software operates on average bit error rates, right? If the dashboard is flashing green and the average looks fine, how is a data center operator supposed to even know this microscopic temporal error is what crashed their $100 million AI cluster?
Honestly, they often don't until it's too late. I mean, averages lie.
Averages lie.
They really do. In modern AI workloads, determinism is mandatory. A continuous training run requires constant synchronization across thousands of GPUs.
Right, of course.
So a rare edge case power ripple that barely registers on an average bit error rate test, it can silently corrupt data and just stall an entire cluster.
Man, if these microscopic power ripples and thermal expansions are already causing catastrophic edge cases, how does the risk profile change as we push speeds up to 1.6 terabits?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the engineering margin is just evaporating entirely.
Meaning there's basically no room for error.
Exactly. At 400G, the system is forgiving enough to absorb imperfect cabling. Then at 800G, the thermal expansion and airflow starvation we just talked about become your major gating issues.
Okay, that makes sense.
But early 1.6T, that pushes the very physical limits of the printed circuit boards themselves. The primary limiters actually become manufacturing tolerances, like connector coplanarity.
Meaning the physical connectors have to lay perfectly flat against the board.
Yes. At 1.6T speed, if a connector is warped by just a few microns, the signal degrades entirely.
Just a few microns.
Just a few microns. It's wild.
So what does this all mean? It means just validating more in a clean room simply doesn't work. The concept of validation has to evolve to test worst-case real-time variants.
You really have to test the rush hour.
Right, with multi-vendor burn-in, fault injection, and worst-case thermal stress, not just the pristine racetrack.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because this unseen battle against physics, it dictates the reliability of the AI and cloud platforms you rely on daily. Everything from enterprise databases to streaming algorithms depends on engineers keeping these microscopic tolerances in check.
Which leaves you with a final thought to mull over. If 1.6T Ethernet is already bumping against the absolute thermal and physical limits of current materials, where a microscopic warp ruins a connection, will the next leap in networking speed force us to completely rethink the physical design of data centers themselves? Maybe the race car has reached its absolute limit, and it's time to entirely redesign the highway.